Welcome to Gawne in 60 seconds, and it's time for the news. Yes, every week I gather together everything I find on the internet that I think will be interesting and good conversation points, and we run through them so we can talk about everything that's going on in the world of motorsport, F1, etc, etc. So, without further ado, let's get into it. First of all, apologies for the noise around here because it's Torbay Air Show this weekend, so at some point we're going to have red arrows and the typhoon and all that sort of stuff going over. Hopefully this will all be recorded before that actually happens, but you never know. There's been a lot of noise, so I'll try and cancel it out as best I can. First things first, here is the channel. This is the car channel. Absolutely loads on here that's really good. I've just done a video on the Tesla Model Y base spec. We've also got the Geely EX5, the new BMW. We've got quite a lot of exciting videos coming up. So next week we should have the Armada 5 or Omoda 5, the new hybrid, full hybrid. We have got a few really good videos. We're gonna have the Fiat Grande Panda coming up. We've got the new Volvo ES90 coming up. We've got the new Toyota BZ4X Touring. So there's quite a few videos coming up, and then we'll have some new Kias on the channel as well in the coming weeks. So loads of new car review content coming up. And also there's going to be a video about me driving a bus and a truck, which is going to be good fun. Then if we switch over, you've got the Gawne in 60 Seconds Motorsport channel, which is this one. So please do make sure you're subscribed to both. It really does help. Thank you very much. And then let's go first of all to look at the results for last week, because first of all we had the Indy 500, and oh my word, what a finish. Because we had that red flag, and it was a horrific accident. You know, the fireball on the back of the car was just, oh my, but the finish was probably the closest Indy 500 I've ever seen, that's for sure. Felix Rosenqvist won, David Malukas second, Scott McLaughlin third, and Pato Ward, what has he got to do, man? What has he got to do to win this race? Coming in fourth, Marcus Armstrong in fifth, VK, Palou, Ferrucci, Grosjean, Sato, Siegel, Connor Daly in the top 12. So a really competitive field, really good race. I just hate the fact that it was on the same weekend as the Canadian Grand Prix. Come on, FIA, sort yourselves out. Why couldn't the Canadian Grand Prix have been the week earlier? It's absolutely ridiculous that you had this 3-week break between Grand Prix and they were on the same continent. You know, it would have made sense to have the break now in between coming back to Europe. It is absolutely daft. They should be avoiding clashing at all costs, because these are two incredible motorsport events. Personally, I don't mind it when it's on the Monaco weekend in some respects, because you've got two proper headline races in a day and they're time apart. You know, you can watch the F1 and then you can watch the Indy 500 later on in the day. But yeah, what a shame. What a shame that was scheduled that way. Luckily, I got to watch most of the Indy 500 before the race started, but it meant I missed loads of the Sky Sports stuff before the race. But there you go. That is the Indy 500. Then last week, Canadian Grand Prix, of course, Kimi Antonelli won. Lewis Hamilton second, Verstappen third. Brilliant race for Kimi Antonelli. He was tooth and nail with George Russell all the way, and it was absolutely, they were knocking 10 bells out of each other. It was absolutely fantastic to watch. And then Russell had an almighty strop because his battery failed, and it was confirmed as a complete battery failure. So imagine that will leave him a little bit shorter on components going up to the rest of the year. And it means that Kimi Antonelli has opened up a 43-point gap in the championship, which I think is bigger than any gap we saw last year. I mean, it's still very early in the season, so anything could change, but 43 points is a huge gap. Yeah, I know he could have a failure somewhere and, you know, it could all be brought back into play, couldn't it? But really, that's pretty epic for the kid, because he is doing so well, and I think he's got the measure of George. I think he's faster than George Russell, and I'd be really keen to know what you think. I mean, it's like, I genuinely think that George Russell isn't particularly likeable. Kimi is more fun. I think he is a faster driver. Obviously, he's not got the experience that George has. So I think he's a little bit rough around the edges, probably a bit more prone to an accident than George is. Time will tell. But I think Kimi is faster. I really, really do think Kimi is faster. And if that's what it comes down to, I'm all for Kimi winning this World Championship, because, you know, if he schools George, it's going to be absolutely fantastic for all to see, I think. Great for Lewis Hamilton to have such a good race, actually. Really great to see him happy, see him on the podium, doing things his own way. He's got his engineers now, and I can only see that getting better. Charles Leclerc had a terrible race and a really bad weekend. I would expect him to be a bit more even going forwards, especially around Monaco. Leclerc is obviously homeboy there, so let's see how that goes. But I think, actually, with their straight line speed deficit, Monaco is probably Lewis's best chance of a win this year. So let's see how that goes, because Monaco next week, and I can't wait for that. Right, Isle of Man TT this weekend, and do you know what? That's worth a read on therace.com. Loads of information about that. Unfortunately, we have had some tragedy already, as there always is in the Isle of Man TT. I mean, it's a beautiful place for a race. Absolutely stunning place for the race. And that's the fact is that's where my surname comes from, the Isle of Man. But it's always an absolute spectacle. Seeing those bikes going through those tight gaps and just brushing us. Oh, wow. It's just, what a spectacle. So that is worth watching and keeping an eye on. 3-second aero rule, among the reasons why F1 has dropped active aero for Monaco. So there'll be no active aero. The wings won't be popping up and down in the Monaco Grand Prix. You won't see the Macarena wings. They will still have to be in place, but they just won't be allowed to be activated. And it says here, as part of the 26 rules package, cars have featured active front and we know that. Drivers switch their wings, we know that as well. But as the first track map for the Monaco Grand Prix has appeared, it's emerged there'll be no straight line modes featured at all. This comes despite there appearing to be some locations where wings could be opened. I mean, you would imagine they could open it through the tunnel because it's flat out, isn't it? And then across the straight, but that's obviously not happening. Now, there are criteria from the FIA. The governing body's stance is straight mode should only be in places where the cars are not operating at the limit of tyre grip. This counts not only for lateral loads when they're cornering, but also traction and braking zones, where activation and deactivation of straight mode could impact on car stability. So the instability of cars around Monaco, because of the tight, short braking zones and corner, is probably why that isn't going to happen. So no straight line modes. That's the first race we're not going to see that. And I think that's a bit of a shame, but let's hope that these smaller cars can overtake in Monaco, because that would be making it a spectacle. Thank God they've ditched that 2 pit stop rule as well. Now, if you like intrigue and espionage, over on The Guardian, there is an article about who really controls the Williams F1 team. A bitter legal battle has put this question centre stage. This is a really long and interesting read if you like whodunits and stuff like that. But this is true. This is real life. And do you know what? It's a shame to see the great Williams F1 team hauled through the mud in this way. But there is a court case going on in the US, and it all surrounds sexism, racism, expenses fiddling, all about the holding company that owns Williams and who actually is behind that. So if you want a good read and you want something to have, you know, half an hour to digest and understand, then go over to The Guardian and read that article, because that is absolutely fascinating. Next up, Alpine. So Alpine has a stake of Alpine that is up for sale, and Mercedes were looking at that potentially to purchase, and they have withdrawn from the bidding process for that stake. Now, I personally think that that is happening because it looks like FIA are starting to pay attention to the complaints around the 2-car ownership rules thing, and owning a second team, because it is kicking off a little bit behind the scenes. So we might see Red Bull having to sell part of or all of VCARB. But it does make sense that Mercedes don't want to get into a political mess by buying part of another team and getting themselves into this problem. So they've withdrawn from the bidding process. Now, this does leave other bidders available. There is still a Christian Horner-led consortium that might come in, although he might have his hands full with a potential BYD entry, and that has gained a lot of traction over recent weeks and months. But that, I believe, from what I've been told, is a full new entry taking up the 12th team on the grid. They wouldn't be looking to buy a stake in Alpine. And Alpine themselves are doing quite well because they have signed this £150 million Gucci deal. So next year, Alpine will be Gucci Racing Alpine F1, which means they'll probably look a little bit like this, black and gold or something. They'll certainly bring a lot of glamour to the paddock, won't they? You imagine the overalls are going to be absolutely fantastic. Huge news this is, because a Gucci F1 team, you see the big brands in F1 now, you know, you've got LVMH, haven't you, who own Tag Heuer and Louis Vuitton, etc. And I think it's that investment into F1 that's brought these other brands on. And Gucci are not going to be silent partners. They're going to be big and brash, and it is going to be obvious. And it's very Flavio, isn't it? It's very Flavio Briatore. And he did this with Benetton back in the day. He knows his stuff. I think this is fantastic for Formula One. It's real investment, really big brands. I mean, you can't get much bigger than having Louis Vuitton and Gucci in F1 like this, can you? So absolutely fantastic. Of course, we've got Adidas in there now as well, Puma, some massive brands. So I think this is only a good thing, only a really good thing for Formula One. Then there's a story here about Alpine being ready to act if Verstappen joins Mercedes. There is still rumour about what Verstappen might do. I think there's a chance he leaves completely. I don't think he'll go anywhere else. Otherwise, I think he'll probably stay at Red Bull, because they are moving up the grid again. You know, they're up there. Podium last weekend. They're certainly listening to him and building the car and developing that car. And you've got to think that they're still pushing in the direction he wants them to go. So I can't imagine he's necessarily going to go anywhere now. Would he go to Mercedes and go up against Kimi Antonelli in his current form? I don't know. Would Kimi Antonelli accept being a number 2 driver to Max Verstappen? Because that's probably what would be required. Interesting to see that everybody, I think, is going to wait to start signing drivers and sort out the driver market until Verstappen's decided what he's going to do. Because that's going to be how the dominoes fall, isn't it? Because if he leaves Red Bull, there's a massive seat there, and the dominoes are going to cascade. So let's see how that goes. There's a story here about Hamilton's breakthrough, how he didn't go in the simulator. He's decided to not do that anymore, take it in his own direction, because he felt like the simulator was leading him down a garden path. So that's an interesting read. And then F1 to limit cars' top speed potential on Monaco straights, but we've already touched on that. So let's look at the motorsport calendar for this weekend. And you can watch IndyCar. IndyCar in Detroit is on Sky Sports F1. IMSA is obviously also in Detroit. World Rally Championship is in Japan, and that's on TNT Sports across the weekend. MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3 also on TNT Sports across the weekend here in the UK. And the World Superbike Championships in Aragon is also on TNT Sports. So that's your motorsport for this weekend. Next week, we'll talk about the Monaco Grand Prix, and that's it. So please do like, subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week.